Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do front brakes and rotors on my son's very dirty 2015 Cruze. First off, we'll start off by removing the front wheels. Be right back. Okay, so the first thing you want to do after you take the wheels off is unlock the steering and turn the wheels to the left or to the right. I'm going to start on the left side, so turn it far to the right so the caliper will be hanging out. Alright, you can shut the key off after that so you don't drain the battery. Alright, so this is what the caliper and brakes look like. Front brakes, the pads are very low on this, so I decided to put brakes and rotors, and that's what I'm going to show you today. That's what the caliper looks like. Start by. Alright, so what you want to do is take these bolts off on the side first. And they're 10 mil bolts. Well, basically crack them loose. I already loosened them a bit. Take those two out. Socket can't fit in there. You could put a 10 mil wrench. Snap that out. Take those right out of the way. Put them down. And what you want to do is, if you can put a pry bar and squeeze this piston back, so you can relieve brake pad pressure and make it much easier when you're taking the caliper off and putting the new pads on. You want to squish this piston right back in place. Alright, this way the pads will slide in, and if that doesn't squish back, that means your caliper's seized and you'll probably need a new one, or you can recondition it. That should go right back as far as you can. That feels like it's it. After that, caliper will just come right off, and you can just hang down the side. Usually you don't like to hang too much weight on that flexible holes, but these are pretty light. And here's your pads right here. They just come off, and you can see hardly anything left. So it's got over 100K, so we did pretty good on these brake pads. And they slide right out. Also, these, I don't know if they came with my new kit. I'll look at that, but you got to clean all these sliders because everything's got to be nice and free. We could have machined the rotors, but I decided to just replace them. They're not that expensive. I bought a set of pads and rotors on Amazon, and they weren't that much. Alright, so the next thing you want to do is you got to remove these caliper mounting brackets. There's these 18 mil bolts back here. They are very tight, so get yourself a good ratchet or a good impact. I have an impact, but this fits much better. And a lot of leverage. If you got to put a bar or something, you can use some leverage by another wrench or something to do that. And that'll help loosen it. I'm gonna take both of these bolts off. And it's got to remove because I got to replace the rotors, and then you got to clean all these slider shims here and lube them all up. You want that all nice and free when you're putting new pads on, so everything's moving freely. I'll show you that later. Okay guys, I had a little trouble taking this little Allen key off. So what I did just to loosen it up is you want to tap right on the head of it, and while you're tapping, either get a socket and tap the socket and just be turned at the same time, and that kind of worked. I couldn't find the proper little socket. If you have a good socket, put it right on there and hit it. And you need to remove this to obviously take the rotor off. So yeah, I had a little hard time. You don't want to strip that, or else you're going to be in trouble, or you have to probably drill it out. So take that right out, and hopefully the rotors come off if they're loose. I do keep this hub lubed. Yep, they're not bad at all. And you take that right off. You know, that rust and everything, so I don't even want to save these rotors anyway, so I'm glad I got some new ones. One little trick is when you're putting new rotors on, it's very, very important. I'll show you this in a sec, is you want to clean all this rust surface. You put a new rotor on that rust surface, and you're going to have a brake pulsation, or because the rotors won't be flush on there. So that's very crucial that you clean all this rust when you're putting a new rotor on there, and I'll show you that in a sec. Okay, so I'm going to just show you quickly how to clean this hub. I do have an air drill. You don't need an air drill. You can use an electric one or cordless, but that's the tool I have here. It's specially made for that. It's from Kent Moore's, from GM. Anyway, basically you go right over it, and you're cleaning all that surface where the rotor is going to be meeting the stud. And go around and clean all the surface, and go right over the stud. You want to get all that rust off, so I'm going to keep going on that, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I did just finish cleaning the hubs. Yeah, there's a little bit of rust. Not as long as the main rust is gone, but you can just see a little rust stain. I also put a little tiny bit of grease. You can use like silicone paste, but you got to go very, very little. You don't want that to go into the rotors and your brake system. Just to, you don't have metal to metal, you got a little bit of lubrication there, and if you have to ever take the rotors off. Just want to quickly show you the brakes I got and rotors from Amazon. All these pads and rotors, actually they weren't very expensive at all, and they look like they're pre-drilled, so they're good for heat. And look at the difference on the new pads compared to the old ones. Obviously, got a lot of meat. Anyway, let me just show you the rotor. I'll slap it on. Actually, before I put that rotor on, I want to just clean the surface a little bit. I do have some brake cleans, and you want to clean that surface a little bit. There's kind of a little bit of maybe residue from one of their production. Alright, so I just cleaned that rotor up a little bit and put it in place. I just got to line up that hole with the bolt hole. I just put a little tiny lubrication on there so that if it's ever got to be removed in the future, it won't be so hard like it was when I removed it. Put that in there and tighten her down, and then after that we got to clean up those caliper mounting brackets. You clean up all this surface over here where the pads sit. Put some lube on there so they slide, and put that in place, and I'll be right back. Okay, so what I want to show you guys is these are the caliper brackets that fit back in here where the caliper sits on. And what's really important is to clean, like some of the brake pads come with a shim kit so you can replace these. Mine didn't because it's a whole set, but don't matter, mine were clean. Mine were good shape. So with a wire wheel, I cleaned the surfaces in here and put a little bit of silicone lube or some brake lube, because the pads will sit in there. You want them to slide back and forth as they're wearing. The other thing that's important is the sliders here. Like mine are pretty good. If you want to take them out and put some extra lube on those pins there so they'll slide, I might put a little bit in there, but mine are in pretty good shape. Alright, so I'm just about to put the pads in. That's what I was talking about. I put the caliper bracket back in, and what's important is where these tabs, or you can even put a little bit of silicone on there too if you want. You can add a little bit on there. If I get this can open. You can put a little bit of lube on there as well. Just be careful. Very, very, like that's too much there. You don't want it to start going on the brake pads. Just the contact surface. And the pads, I want to put the same as the original. The ones with these dimples were on the outside, I noticed. Always look at how you removed it. And if you forgot, you got the other side you can always look at. And those things will slide right back in. Shouldn't be with difficulty, but there you go. So they can move back and forth. Same thing with the other pad. The one with the sensor was at the top, and that will go on the inside. Next thing you want to do after the pads are in place is put the caliper back in, and this is the part that I showed you at the beginning, why you want to squish this piston all the way back in. If you didn't, you can grab some channel grip and squish it, but I did manage to put it back in with that pry bar, because now you're going to have more meat here with the new pads and rotors, when I pre-squished it back in, she just falls in place. And that's it, you know. Put your bolts in, if I can find them. There they are. Put your bolts back in. Jiggle it around and basically tighten those down or torque them down. Oh, one thing is very important, make sure you don't twist the caliper right around and have this brake hose twisted around, or you're going to have some serious flex hose problems. So it's very important that you put this on the same way you took it off, and make sure that you don't twist that. You know, when you put the caliper, you didn't twist it around one revolution. All right, tighten them up, and I'll be right back. So that's basically it. I torque these down or tighten them down, and when you're finished, you want to make sure the caliper slides back and forth so you know everything's nice and free here. So you got you know, new rotors, new brake pads, simple as that. Do the other side, and when I'm done, we'll go for a road test, and I'll show you how you should burnish in new brakes and pads. But pretty simple, anybody can do. Any questions, you can comment, and I'll help you wherever I can. All right, we're done with the brakes, and before you go off to road test, very important, safety first, is pump the brake pedal, because those calipers were pushed back, the pistons were pushed back, so you got to get them back in place to seat them, well, 4 or 5 times till you get a hard pedal. And the other thing I want to do, I put the summer tires on, and I have to program the tires to their positions. Basically, you bring it up to your tire pressure monitor and you hold down the menu key. Oh no, I'm sorry. Hold down the set key. And do I want to learn? Yes. Okay, so she's ready. I got this little tool here to go around and set the tires. Basically, you push the button at each sensor. You start at the left front, go on to the left, right front, and then the right rear. And then your last one is the left rear, and you're basically just pointing this right to the tire pressure sensor. Oh, when you hear the double beep, that means she's all done. And look at your tires, and there they are. They're all set. Put them a little bit on the high side. That's probably because it's still warm out, but now ready for a road test. I'm just road testing the car now, and so what you want to do is burnish the brakes in. You go about, let's say about 30-40K, and then just give it a nice firm stop. You do that about 10 times. Watch out for vehicles, of course, and the brakes should be burnished in. You don't want a really hard brake to lock them up. Just a firm brake pedal pressure. Basically, you're just seating the pads into the rotors. They call it, some people call it burnishing, bedding. And you do that 10 times and you're all set. Finish up. I just finished washing and road testing my son's Cruze, the 2015 Cruze, after doing the brakes. And those are the front brakes and rotors through the rim. Look pretty cool. And I gotta tell you, these brakes and rotors are fantastic. So smooth, good firm brake pedal, and a good smooth application, and they stop really good. Thanks for watching. If you guys found this video helpful, like and subscribe. Comment if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer. Have a good day.